It was inevitable that Cartmail should ask these questions eventually. He could not restrain himself, in the end, from making use of his peculiar gifts to seek the answers. He had looked into the future 100 times, always with satisfactory results. Even his earlier excursions, timid and unskillful, had brought enormous financial profit, which was not surprising, seeing that they had revealed to him stock exchange prices and racing results a week ahead. Now he was rich, he was successful, he was famous, or notorious, as the most successful gambler of the century. And he was happily married. In fact, by practically any standard, and most certainly by his own, he was a very happy man. He cannot be blamed for wanting to know how long his happiness would endure. While he was resisting the temptation to find out, he did at least argue with himself regarding the desirability of knowing the time, the place, and the manner of his dying. The knowledge might not help his happiness, but on the other hand, once his curiosity had been roused, he could not be happy until he had gratified it. He had to know. He made his preparations. He did those things which he believed to be black magic, but which the unbeliever might consider to be a convenient ritual to induce self-hypnosis. He made the great effort of will which carried him into the billowing grey clouds, the further efforts that opened a peephole in them, and the further efforts still but widened the peephole. He was looking into a hospital room. Nothing surprising about that. There was even reassurance to be found in knowing he would die in a hospital bed. There was a nurse beside the bed, and as the peephole widened, he could see that she was talking to Viola, his wife. It was not very distinct as yet. He had to crane round the peephole to see that lying on the bed was a thing. That thing was himself, and he looked anxiously at it to find the answers to his questions. The sprouting beard on the unshaven cheeks was black. The expressionless face was unlined. The hair, several inches long, was thick and dark and curly still. But the thing was a thing. It was not human. He could see that it was blind. He could see that this slobbering thing was completely and utterly helpless. Horrible to look at, with all the muscles of the face useless. He made the effort to listen to what was being said. It was harder in these excursions to hear than to see. "I can't help but say that it's a merciful release," said Viola. "He's feeling nothing in any case," said the nurse. Her fingers were on the thing's pulse. "Do you think he has known anything at all?" asked Viola. "I don't think so," said the nurse. "With complete paralysis like this, it's hard to say. Cuts from all communication, but he cannot know much. Blind and helpless. Poor fellow." It was important that Cartmail should know the dates. He strained to find out. He realized that Viola was wearing a coat and skirt that he knew well. That and the hair of the thing told him that it could not be far off into the future. Then he thought of the notes above the bed. They would be dated. He strained and strained to get a glimpse of them. One final convulsive effort revealed them to him. Just for a second, they were there before his eyes, just long enough to read the date. The effort broke the spell, terminated the self-hypnosis, and he was back in his chair with the sweat running down him in streams. And in his mind, the knowledge that he had only a year to live. 51 weeks to be exact, he worked out as he checked on today's date. He had 51 weeks to live, and he was going to die blind and paralyzed. A dreadful, horrible thing. And it will take most of those 51 weeks for that thing to die. He had heard that paralysis cases died in the end of exhaustion resulting from bed sores. This would be in 51 weeks' time. If he were going to forestall it, he did not have much time to spare. He could not doubt the accuracy of what he had seen. He had only to look around him at all the evidence of wealth and success to know that he had never been wrong, that his gift had never failed him. He could be quite sure of it. If he were going to forestall his fate, he must act immediately, before the paralysis came to prevent him. The motives of suicide, like those of murder, are usually inadequate in the estimation of the onlooker. He got out his pistol. It was only a .22, but it would do his business for him. He saw that it was loaded. He looked once more around the evidence of wealth and success. Then he pushed the muzzle up under his chin and pulled the trigger. He went out into darkness. He came into darkness again, not remembering. The darkness was intense, darker than any darkness he had ever known. He tried to see. He could not even be sure if his eyes were open or not. He tried again to look through the darkness. He tried to raise his hand to his eyes, and his hand would not move. Then he realized that he was blind and paralyzed, cut off from all communication. And he still had 51 weeks to live. It was perhaps typical. Cart Mail had sought answers to the questions when and where and how. He had not asked why.